It's a lot more than we think. In the UK, 7 million tons of food and water worth £12.5 billion is thrown away every year. The sad part, more than half of this food could have been used. Why is so much food wasted? The answer to it is quite simple. We prepare too much or we don't use it on time. Almost 50% of food thrown away comes from households, the rest from restaurants. Waste and Resource Action Program estimates a major portion is thrown away because the food is past its sell-by date. Another statistic released by food supply organization FairShare suggests curbing this waste by a mere 1% would allow to provide 70 million meals to the needy. In the present scenario, where food past the sell-by date is thrown away, this family in Wakefield prides themselves in completely disregarding use-by labels and relying only on their instinct and experience to check whether food is good for consumption.
Fridge. Would you like from a fridge? Okay, here we've got a variety of things. We've got milk that is a few days past its sell-by date, so I will check on that. I think that's got to be thrown. There's only a little bit of wastage there. We've got eggs that are out of date, but I would use those. I was brought up in a generation where there wasn't anything at all, there wasn't any sell-by, use-by or anything, or best before, and so I certainly do that unless I thought that the food had gone off, but nearly all food I would use past the sell-by date, definitely.
Meanwhile, Sheffield Trading Standards, who deal with waste measures and product safety, maintain that two terms in specific are to be well understood by the customers.
A use-by date tends to be on products that can potentially make you ill if you ate them out of date. They tend to go off from a microbiological side of things, so it could be a meat product or creams, that type of issue. You've got a best before date, which very often is usually a quality type of issue. So what it's actually saying is that product is at its best before that date. Now, with a use-by date, it is an offence to sell any product with an expired use-by date. Best before date is a guideline. It can be sold beyond its best before date as long as it's fit for human consumption.
After speaking to Kevin, I went down to the Moor Market in Sheffield to ask people what they know about the difference between sell-by, use-by and best before labels.
Best before, I think that's just a reflection on the quality of the food. If it's past the best before, then it should still be edible and everything safe, but the quality might not be as good as it was originally.
I don't know.
Use by means you've got to use by that day. Sell by means you've got to sell by that day. And the other one is best before is if you buy a product, this is best before that day.
Out of it, throw it. And I should try it.
87% of food is thrown away from the supermarkets because products pass the best before dates. Instead of adopting constructive measures including food donation, Cost Cutter, like many others in the business, choose to throw such food away.
So reduce it to our price, then that day if we didn't sell it that day for our price, we should put it in skip.
Ben says that customers often come up to him confused about the labelling of products.
All these are used by date, it's fresh meat, so you've got to use these. Some of these aren't there to go out. Like, all these can serve a few days after because it's not meat, they can go off.
Veolia Environmental Services operates to collect black bin waste from 240,000 houses in Sheffield. The French company was contracted by the City Council in 2001 for 35 years. The waste collected is not only disposed of efficiently, but also used to generate heat and electricity.
Where we're able to extract the energy as the waste is burned and then that is converted into thermal and electrical energy. The electrical side of it is sold to the national grid, and the thermal side of it is run through our district energy network.
The thermal energy produced in the incinerator supply heat through underground pipes to as far as up to the Children's Hospital in Broomhill. The company believes that educating people regarding food labels will help reduce food wastage.
We talk heavily about like portion control, so that people don't cook too much. If they do cook too much, make sure they freeze it, heat it up to the next day, using leftovers if they do create leftovers to make new dishes. Making sure people understand about food labelling, so that they don't get rid of something just because they think it's out of date when actually it was a best before date, which meant that it would be okay.
A final year BA student has discovered a new labelling method which responds to temperature and atmospheric changes.
Using gelatin, which I set on a bumpy texture underneath, I've been able to create a label that changes from smooth to bumpy. The way it does that is when the gelatin is on the bumps, the bumps cannot be felt because the jelly is a solid. And the reason I've used gelatin is because it's a protein and it decays at the same rate as protein-based foods.
Traditionalists never depended on labeling of any sort, but were able to distinguish between good and bad food. Many people in the country go to sleep on an empty stomach when 1/3 of the food produced goes to waste. With the advancement of technology and the ideas from bright minds like Solveiga's, the future of food labeling may change forever. But until then, small conscious steps to check food in spite of what the labeling says can help save food for the country and money for the family.